The bronze sunlight of Coruscant's artificial dawn had barely touched the spires of the Jedi Temple when Mace Windu's voice cut through the council chamber like a vibroblade through silence. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for words that would change the course of galactic history. You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of Master. The words hung in the air, heavy as a Star Destroyer's shadow. Around the circular chamber, 12 pairs of eyes watched Anakin Skywalker, the hero of the Republic, the Chosen One, the youngest council appointee in Jedi history, as his mechanical hand tightened into a fist. The servos whirred softly, a metallic whisper of restraint that spoke volumes about the control he was exerting over himself, but the explosion never came. Instead, Anakin Skywalker drew in a breath so deep it seemed to pull the very force into his lungs. When he exhaled, something fundamental had changed. The fire in his eyes hadn't dimmed. If anything, it burned brighter, but it had transformed from the wild blaze of youth into something far more dangerous, the controlled burn of conviction. Then I cannot accept the seat. Master Windu's hand, which had been resting on his lightsaber, always ready, always watching, actually twitched. Years of combat hadn't prepared him for this. What did you say? If I cannot speak as an equal, then I will not sit as a decoration. I won't be anyone's pawn, not the Chancellor's and not yours. Anakin, think about what you're doing. I have thought about it, Master. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking clearly. The doors of the council chamber hissed shut behind him with finality, leaving 12 of the galaxy's most powerful beings in stunned silence. Master Yoda's ears drooped slightly, and just for a moment, the ancient Jedi looked every one of his 900 years. A dangerous precedent this sets. Ki-Adi-Mundi was already standing, his cone-shaped head tilted with indignation. He openly defies the council. This insubordination cannot what? Cannot be tolerated? Like we couldn't tolerate his emotions, his attachment to his mother, his friendship with the Chancellor? Maybe it's time we asked ourselves why the Chosen One just walked away from us. The silence that followed was deafening. Several council members actually leaned back as Obi-Wan's gaze swept the room, finally settling on Yoda, who returned it with a stare heavy with unspoken meaning. 3 levels down and a half a kilometer away, Anakin's boots echoed through the temple's training halls with the rhythm of a man who'd finally found his path. Clone troopers from the 501st, his boys, looked up from their exercises, sensing the storm in their general's wake. The force around him crackled with purpose, not anger. Sir, everything all right? Anakin paused, really looking at Rex for perhaps the first time, not just as a soldier, not just as a resource, but as a man who'd been bred for war, given a number instead of a childhood, and expected to die without question. The weight of that realization settled on his shoulders. Rex, have you ever refused an order? The captain's scarred face went still. Around them, the training hall had gone quiet. Hawk, Echo, Jesse, they all watched with the intensity of men who knew this moment mattered. Once or twice, sir, when the order would have gotten good men killed for no reason. And the consequences? Worth it, sir, every time. I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Not what you think I want to hear, not what regulations say you should tell a Jedi. The truth. Always, General. Have you ever noticed anything strange about your training, your conditioning? Rex's jaw tightened imperceptibly. The question hit too close to something that had been gnawing at him since Fives had died, rambling about conspiracies and nightmares in his arms. Sometimes, sir, there are gaps. Procedures we follow but can't explain. And Fives, before he tried to tell us something about chips, about orders we didn't know we had. Anakin felt the force ripple around him, like the first tremor before an earthquake. Every instinct screamed that this was important. Show me. Follow me, General. But what I'm about to show you, it goes against everything we were told to believe. In a secured room deep within the barracks, hidden behind false panels and encrypted locks, Rex revealed what Fives died trying to expose. Medical scans showing anomalies in clone brain patterns, partially corrupted data files that spoke of hidden protocols, and one small vial containing what looked like a computer chip, no bigger than a credit chip. Fives managed to save this before they killed him. It's from Tup, an inhibitor chip they called it, supposed to make us less aggressive, more obedient, but Fives believed it was something else, something worse. Anakin held the chip up to the light, the force screaming warnings through every fiber of his being. The small piece of technology seemed to pulse with malevolent purpose. We need to get these out, all of them. General, if we're doing this, we need to move fast. I've got maybe 20 men I trust absolutely, men who remember Fives, who've had the same doubts. 20 out of thousands, but that's a start. Get them ready, Rex. We're going to need a medical droid that won't report to the temple. While Anakin descended into the classified depths of military protocol, 3 floors up in a different wing of the Senate building, Senator Padme Amidala sat in an emergency session with Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. The secure room hummed with anti-surveillance equipment, a necessity in these dark days where even whispers could be treason. He refused the seat? The entire temple is buzzing about it. Some are calling him a traitor. Others are asking questions they've never asked before. Questions about the Jedi's role in this war. about their alignment with the Chancellor, about where their loyalty truly lies. The Chancellor won't take this well. Anakin was supposed to be his voice on the Council. Then perhaps it's time the Chancellor learned that not everyone can be bought or controlled. Be careful, Padme. If Palpatine suspects your connection to Skywalker, let him suspect. I'm tired of shadows and secrets. If Anakin can stand up to the entire Jedi Council, then maybe it's time the rest of us found our courage too. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. The Jedi Archives at night were a cathedral of shadows and starlight. Anakin moved through the towering shelves like a ghost, following a path he'd discovered in Rex's encrypted files, coordinates that led not to a battlefield, but to a restricted section even most masters didn't know existed. The Force itself seemed to whisper secrets in these forgotten corridors. I wondered when you would come. Anakin's hand went to his lightsaber, then stopped. The figure emerging from the shadows was stooped with age, her face hidden beneath a deep hood, but the Force around her sang with knowledge rather than threat. Jocasta knew? Oh, young Skywalker, did you think I spent all these decades among these texts without learning their secrets? When masters fail to return their classified materials before going into exile, or falling to the dark side, someone must catalog what they leave behind. Count Dooku left quite a collection when he departed, materials that technically should have been destroyed, but I preserved them for a moment like this. She led him deeper, past security systems that seemed to ignore their presence, into a vault that hummed with the kind of energy that made Anakin's teeth ache. The very air felt heavy with forbidden knowledge. Behold, the archive of last resort, where we keep the truths too dangerous for the light. The holographic records that sprang to life made Anakin's blood run cold. File after file revealed Jedi corruption dating back centuries, secret alliances with criminal cartels to fund operations the Senate wouldn't approve. A group called the Seers of Jedha systematically hunted and destroyed for suggesting the Jedi had lost their way. Cover-ups of Padawan abuse, masters who'd fallen to darkness but been quietly eliminated rather than publicly acknowledged. But it was the final recording that stopped his heart. Master Sifo Dyas appeared in flickering blue light, looking haggard and haunted, speaking directly to the recorder with the desperation of a man who knew his time was running out. If you're watching this, then I'm dead and my worst fears have been realized. The clone army I commissioned, the behavioral inhibitor chips I insisted upon to ensure their absolute loyalty to the Jedi and the Republic. I've discovered evidence of tampering. The Sith have been manipulating the very safeguards I put in place. The chips now contain contingency protocols I never authorized, orders that could turn our protectors into executioners. I've hidden the evidence in Kamino, but I see darkness coming. A moment when a single command will echo across the stars. I must stop the Sith before they manipulate those chips fully, before they can turn my creation into our destruction. The recording dissolved into static, leaving only the echo of a dead man's warning. By the Force. Indeed, and that's not the worst of it. Look at the authorization codes for the Kamino order. Anakin studied the data, cross-referencing it with what he'd learned from Rex. The patterns began to emerge like constellations in a dark sky, and with them, a terrible understanding dawned. These Senate authorizations, they're forgeries. High level, almost perfect, but forgeries nonetheless, and the signature style matches exactly one person in the entire Republic bureaucracy, someone with the access, the knowledge, and the power to orchestrate all of this. The Chancellor. Dawn was breaking over Coruscant as Anakin stood in his apartment, not the sterile Jedi quarters, but the secret home he shared with Padme. She was there, along with people he'd never expected, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and most surprisingly, Ahsoka Tano. Snips? How? Rex called me, said you were finally asking the right questions, figured you might need someone who'd walked away from the Order and lived to tell about it. She'd grown in their time apart, her presence in the Force more centered, more sure. The Padawan he'd trained had become a warrior in her own right. We've been building a network, people who've suspected the truth but never had proof, military personnel who've received these encrypted orders, Jedi who've questioned but been silenced. How many? More than you think. Less than we'd hope, but with what you've discovered? Anakin activated the holoprojector, displaying Sifo Dyas' warning and the evidence trail leading to Palpatine. The room fell silent as the implications sank in like stones in still water. We need to move carefully. If we strike too soon, every moment we wait, more people die. Master, Anakin's right. The time for politics is past. No, that's where the Jedi went wrong. They abandoned politics, became warriors instead of peacekeepers. We do this right, or we're just replacing one tyranny with another. Can you get me a meeting with the Chancellor? Private, informal. He still thinks I'm his ally. Anakin, no. If he suspects, he won't, because I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. A confused, angry young Jedi looking for guidance, and while he's trying to turn me, I'll get him to admit everything. The device was military-grade recording equipment, modified with Jedi ingenuity to be undetectable. The Chancellor's office was bathed in the red light of sunset as Anakin entered. The massive windows overlooked a Coruscant that seemed to burn in the dying light. Palpatine rose from behind his desk, grandfatherly concern written across his features in a mask so perfect it would have fooled anyone who hadn't seen the evidence. "My boy, I heard about the council meeting. Unconscionable, after everything you've done. They fear me, my power, my potential. As well they should. The Jedi have held you back, Anakin. Denied you the knowledge that is your birthright." Knowledge? What kind of knowledge? The power over life and death itself. The ability to save those you love from certain doom. Your mother need not have been the last you lose. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Anakin felt the dark side coiling around him like a serpent, seductive and terrible, but beneath his robes, the recorder captured every word. The Jedi would never teach me such things. No, they would not, but I know of those who could. The Sith were not the monsters the Jedi paint them as, Anakin. They were simply those who refused to deny half of the Force's power. You speak as if you knew them personally. My boy, who says I speak in the past tense? The lightsaber that ignited was red as blood, red as the sunset, red as the rage Palpatine expected to see in Anakin's eyes. But Anakin didn't reach for his weapon. Instead, he simply said, "Hello, Darth Sidious. The Jedi Council sends their regards." Palpatine spun, snarling. His carefully constructed mask finally slipped completely. "You dare! I'm transmitting everything, not just to the Temple, to the Senate Security Committee, to the major news networks, to Admiral Yularen and the military command. Even now, they're hearing every word. You think your little recording will matter? I control the Senate. I control the courts. But you don't control the truth, and you can't control what happens when people finally see it." The Chancellor's hand twitched toward his hidden lightsaber, then stopped. Even now, the master manipulator was calculating odds, searching for angles. "You've destroyed yourself, boy. When I'm through with you, Chancellor Palpatine, you're under arrest for treason against the Republic." Behind him stood Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Kit Fisto. The Red Guards who should have stopped them lay unconscious in the anteroom. The Jedi had not come unprepared. "Master Windu, have you come to assassinate me based on the delusion of a confused young knight?" "Based on evidence. Evidence that the Senate Security Committee is reviewing as we speak. Your recording has been most illuminating." Palpatine's hand slammed onto a hidden panel. Blast doors crashed down with thunderous finality, sealing the office. With only Anakin trapped inside and the other Jedi locked out, precious seconds had been bought. "Execute Order 66. The words reached every clone commander across the galaxy simultaneously. No authentication needed. The inhibitor chips recognized only the voice pattern and command phrase. Across 1,000 worlds, the galaxy's protectors became its executioners. Anakin staggered as he felt the Force convulse. Thousands of lights began to flicker and die like stars going supernova. "What have you done?" "What I should have done months ago. Your masters will arrive soon. I wonder how many Jedi will die while they waste time trying to arrest me." The crimson lightsaber ignited in his hand with a sound like screaming. "Your recording changes nothing. With the Jedi branded as traitors who attacked the Supreme Chancellor, my emergency powers become permanent. The Empire will rise from the ashes of your order. The recordings are broadcasting now. Every network, every military frequency, the galaxy is hearing your confession in real time." For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Sidious's yellow eyes. His plan had depended on controlling the narrative, on being the victim. The massive window shattered inward as Mace Windu and Yoda burst through. The sealed doors had forced an alternate entry. Kit Fisto and Obi-Wan flanked them, lightsabers already ignited, their faces grim with determination. Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple, Captain Rex stood frozen as Order 66 flashed across his HUD. The chip activated like a virus in his brain, trying to override his will, to make him see enemies where there were only friends. His hands shook as he fought to lower his weapon. "No, not doing this!" Around him, only Jesse and Kix managed similar resistance. Both had been close to fives, both had questioned after his death, but they were 3 against thousands. The 501st moved with terrifying efficiency, their blue-marked armor now marking them as harbingers of death. Rex, still fighting the chip's influence with every fiber of his being, positioned himself between advancing troopers and a group of younglings. He couldn't shoot his brothers, but he could buy time. "Remember who you are! These aren't enemies, they're children!" The trooper hesitated just for a moment. Somewhere deep inside, the humanity fought programming. It was enough for the younglings to vanish into the ventilation system. Ahsoka arrived like a whirlwind, having been in the lower levels investigating chip evidence. Her white lightsabers carved through the air, deflecting blaster bolts with desperate precision. "Maintenance Shaft 7, move! Anyone who can hear me, Maintenance Shaft 7! There were no prearranged evacuations, no emergency protocols for the unthinkable, just desperate improvisation and old smuggling routes Anakin had discovered as a Padawan breaking curfew. Back in the Chancellor's office, the duel had erupted with apocalyptic fury. Sidious fought with a millennium of Sith knowledge, his blade moving faster than thought, but he faced the absolute best of the Jedi Order. Yoda countered raw power with ancient wisdom, his small form belying his enormous strength. Mace's Vapad turned the Sith's own darkness against him. Kit Fisto's fluid style kept Sidious off balance, and Anakin maintained the broadcast, ensuring the galaxy heard every clash, every snarl of rage. The clones will complete their mission, the Jedi will fall, your Republic will burn. Perhaps, but they'll fall as heroes, not traitors. History will remember the truth. In his fury at being outmaneuvered, Sidious turned to silence Anakin's broadcast, leaving himself open for just an instant. A fraction of a second, but against masters of their caliber, it was enough. Yoda's blade found its mark. Darth Sidious fell with a scream that echoed through the Force itself, a death cry that every Force sensitive in the galaxy felt like ice in their veins. But his death didn't stop Order 66. The chips didn't care their architect was dead. They only knew their programming. Yet something fundamental had changed. Across the galaxy, beings who had heard the broadcast began to resist, to shelter Jedi, to question orders. Clone commanders found strength to hesitate. Planetary defense forces refused to cooperate. The perfect purge became a messy, chaotic civil conflict. In the temple, Rex finally succumbed completely, the chip's programming overwhelming his resistance. He raised his blaster toward a group of Padawans, tears streaming down his face, apologies on his lips. Ahsoka's stun bolt caught him in the chest before he could fire. "I'm sorry, Rex. We'll find a way to free you, all of you, I promise." The Order would emerge decimated, but not destroyed. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy didn't heal overnight. The Clone Wars ground to an exhausting halt rather than a clean victory. With Dooku dead, slain aboard the Invisible Hand weeks before Anakin's refusal, and Grievous eliminated in Palpatine's final desperate days, the Separatist systems found themselves leaderless and confused. Some fought on for months, refusing to believe the war could simply end. Others, freed from Sith manipulation, sent delegates to Coruscant to negotiate. The Republic, shaken to its core by the revelation of Palpatine's treachery, could barely maintain order, let alone dictate terms. And the Jedi faced their greatest trial. "Anakin Skywalker, you exposed the truth. You saved the Order. We offer you the rank of Master and a seat on the Council." Anakin stood in the center of the room, but this time, he wasn't alone. Ahsoka was at his right side, Rex at his left, the clone having had his chip removed in a dangerous procedure. Behind them stood Padawans who'd survived Order 66, clone troopers who'd resisted their programming, even former Separatists who sought to understand the Force. "I thank the Council for this honor, but I must again decline." This time, there was no shock. Some council members even seemed to expect it. Yoda's ears actually perked up with interest. "However, I have a proposal. The Jedi have forgotten that we were meant to be more than warriors. We were teachers, healers, explorers. I propose we return to those roots, not as part of the Republic's military, but as guardians of peace throughout the galaxy. And who will lead this effort? All of us. Jedi, clones, Force sensitives who were rejected by the Old Order. We've started training camps on Outer Rim worlds, places where the Force is studied without politics, without rigid doctrine. Dangerous, this path is, yet stagnation, more dangerous still. Then you'll allow it?" "Allow? My former Padawan, I don't think we could stop you if we tried, and frankly, I don't think we should." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Jedi Order would truly change. The Academy on Tython was unlike any Jedi facility that had come before. Built into the living rock of the ancient Jedi world, it flowed with the natural Force energies of the planet. Students of all ages and species trained together, some destined to be knights, others healers, others scholars. The rigid hierarchy of the Old Order had given way to something more organic, more alive. Anakin stood on the cliff's edge, watching the binary sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. His hair had grown longer, touched with premature silver from the trials he'd faced, but his eyes were clear, peaceful in a way they'd never been in his youth. "Master Skywalker? I've told you, Numa, just Anakin is fine. But the others say you're the greatest Jedi who ever lived, that you saved everyone." "I'm not the greatest anything, little one. I'm just someone who learned to ask the right questions at the right time, and more importantly, I learned to listen to the answers." "What kind of questions?" "Questions like why, and what if, and most importantly, is there a better way? Those are the questions that change the galaxy." "Skywalker, stop philosophizing and help me with these training droids. The younglings reprogrammed them again, and now they're speaking only in ancient Sith." "Duty calls. Remember what we talked about. The Force isn't about power, it's about connection, to yourself, to others, to the galaxy itself." As he walked back toward the academy, where Padme was teaching a course on galactic politics to the older students, Anakin caught a glimpse of two small figures racing across the training grounds. The twins, nearly 10 now, their Force signatures blazing like binary stars. Luke, all eagerness and impulse, trying to levitate 3 rocks at once while running. Leia, focused and determined, helping a younger student master basic meditation while simultaneously maintaining her own exercises. They didn't have to hide here. They didn't have to be separated, sent to distant worlds for their protection. They could just be children, growing up surrounded by love and learning, by hundreds of brothers and sisters in the Force. Rex was there too, his hair gone completely gray now, but his back still straight, drilling older students in tactical thinking while reminding them that victory without compassion was just another form of defeat. The chip was long gone, but the lessons it had taught about free will and choice remained. Remember, a soldier who fights only because he's programmed to isn't a soldier at all. He's a droid. You fight because you choose to protect what matters. In the end, Anakin hadn't become the chosen one by fulfilling some ancient prophecy written in dusty texts. He'd done it by choosing himself, by refusing to be what others demanded, by finding his own path through the Force. And in that choice, that singular moment of defiance in the council chambers, he'd saved them all. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.